So this is the native pollination I'm going to have to do it with this for now. The native pollination preservation public display garden at the Southborough Library. This is at the beginning. This is 2019. Ryan Donovan showed us the area for the pollination preservation garden that was available to the Open Space Commission. This isn't the right, I'll tell you why. I got to go out. This is the wrong presentation. So Melissa, if I end this, I'm not screen sharing anymore. Do I have to end screen share?
You have to end screen sharing. Do you want me to stop it?
Stop screen share and let me get out of here, and then I'll find the right PowerPoint.
All right, you're not screen sharing anymore. You're good.
All right, so now I need to screen share and find the right I find the right caption and then share screen, or
just have it open in the background and then hit share screen. Yeah, and just choose what the right one that you want.
not seeing all my
you might have to show all windows. So when you hit share screen in the bottom right, if you have multiple tabs open, you might have to hit show all windows and it'll show all the applications you have open.
Oh, I think I found it. And now I have to find share screen. See if this works. Sorry for keeping everyone waiting, but so I'm clicking on it to open it. Nope. This isn't the right one. Am I sharing my screen now?
Yes, it says Pollinator Preservation, Southborough Library 2021.
Yeah. All right, I think this is it, guys. Hold on. So here we are again. This is the Pollination Preservation Garden from 2021. Well, actually it started in all right, let me go back, guys. So here's what it looked like after we first started planting it. This was last year in 2023. I think this was in 2020 when Ryan Donovan, the library director, had a walk on the area with myself, Beth Foley, who was a member of the Native Plant Gardens of Southborough and one of our volunteers, and Karen Galligan, our DPW director, joined us. This is the area he was pointing out that we had available to use. It was an underutilized, cared for area of the library grounds. And here we are with, that's Ryan, Karen Galligan, and Beth on the right. You can tell the time period by the masks. We're all outside and social distancing. I don't know if you can see, but well, you can't. Unfortunately, behind Karen on the stone wall in the middle where my cursor is, that was a big, large multiflora rose invasive plant. And behind Ryan, there was a stone wall. There is a stone wall, but it was covered with buckthorn and bittersweet and other invasives. And this is the drainage swale. Nobody could tell us even what it was. It wasn't until I had a expert come and evaluate that he scraped away the leaves and we found a storm drain at the bottom over here. We didn't even know there was a storm drain. These are all invasive plants. There was bittersweet, buckthorn, I'm not sure what else, but there was multiple bitter invasives. The stone wall was all collapsed. No one had cleaned out the leaves in a long time. So the Open Space Preservation Commission engaged Trevor Smith. I took a course with him, one of the courses I'm taking for certificate at Native Plant Trust. And he came over and did an evaluation. I wanted to see what the whole property, we were looking at the sun and the soil type and all of that, but we also wanted to know what that swale, what was the purpose of those stone walls. And he scraped it out, and you can see the storm drain here. And he assured us that planting in there would be not just okay, it would be beneficial. It would clean out any of the water that was flowing into it, slow the flow down. So it'd be better for the receiving water, as well as it would make a very good place to plant plants that typically like to have their feet wet or are associated with rain gardens. So it widened our ability of which types of plants we could plant in the area. And he assured us it would fill in nicely and would not detract from the flow. He's a stormwater expert, and based on his assurances, we had Karen Galligan, head of DPW, agree that it would be okay to plant in there, and Ryan had already given his okay for the whole area. And we laid out the garden path. And if you're wondering what the little pink flags are, before I go to the little pink flags, this is another area. This on the back, that's a lot of poison ivy and other invasives, bittersweet on the stone wall going to the old cemetery. We cleared the soil out, and this was before we had the invasives and poison ivy removed. This was just a drawing of where the different types of plants were going. And this is a lawn alternative in progress, and we keep coming up with situations we hadn't expected. There's creeping Charlie in the grass. Some people think it's a wonderful plant. It's not. It's an invasive, and it totally keeps filling in the area that we plant. So that's an ongoing issue we're dealing with. But back to the little pink flags. So the technique is we use the pink flags. They're all numbered to correspond with the plants on the design for the garden. And each pot had a number corresponding to a flag. So the volunteers could just pick up a pot and know where to plant it by finding the matching flag. Sort of like paint by numbers, it's plant by numbers. And internationally renowned garden designer Piet Oldoff came up with this method, or was the one who made it famous, utilizing it. He's the one who designed the High Line in New York City and many gardens across the country, but he's internationally, he does a lot of work in Europe as well. So we thought using his method would be a smart thing to do. So we had volunteer days where we planted. We had many volunteers. There were hundreds of plants. I think over 300 to somewhere between, I'll have to count, 300 to 500. And since then we've had to do some editing, plant more, remove some that, weeds, plenty of weeds. And this is at the end of 2021, what the garden looked like after we finished planting. Just want to go back because I thought I'm missing a slide. Sorry to make you dizzy. Okay. So I did point this out. This is the swale after we cleaned it out. I did want to mention that we had all the invasives removed. We had the, can you just excuse me? I'm putting up my phone. Melissa, can you mute me?
Yep, you're all good. We'll just give Freddie just a minute. Very well. Freddie, you should be able to unmute now. I don't think I can unmute you myself.
Okay. I am unmuted. Can you hear
Yep.
me?
We can hear you.
Sorry, I can't find the screen now, though. I just have a big Zoom that says I'm screen sharing, big white screen with Zoom written on it.
In the bottom. Your
Am I there
screen
now?
I hear you.
Are you seeing
Your
the
screen's-
screen?
Yep, your screen is still being shared.
All right, so to all the attendees, I apologize for the interruption. So I just wanted to point out that if you, I hadn't mentioned it because it was quite a big deal. The stone wall was collapsed. This was all these trees and stuff were invasives, and we were able to have the invasives working with the library director and DPW. The invasives were removed. The stone wall was repaired. You know, we cleaned it out. So we had added great value to this eyesore of a segment of the library grounds. So I'm going to catch up. These are the AIMSA students, Advanced Math and Science Academy from Marlboro. It's a charter school, and this is the Climate Change Committee. They've been volunteering with us every season. And in the winter, they do the winter sow and the seed cleaning they've been helping with. And what's that, 20, 21, 22? This is the 4th year they've been working with us. And it's really impressive. Last weekend, we had a work day, and one of the students who had graduated high school came on her Saturday morning to work with us because she gets great value in doing it. And it was graduation party weekend, so she had to go home to a graduation party that afternoon. And that's why there weren't more of the volunteers this weekend, but they've been coming regularly. Those were other citizens from the many different groups, the library and the South Broken Land Foundation and the Rotary Club all collaborated with us, in addition to the Open Space Preservation Commission and the Native Plant Gardens of Southborough. It's a Facebook group, loosely organized group of volunteers. So that was at the end of the planting. And we're looking forward to lots of nature-based activities and citizen science projects. That was in 2021. And now this is the picture of the garden in May last year. And it's the last slide I have here. So I'm going to update it with slides of the beautiful flowers that we've had and the continuous work days, and also talk a little bit about the, if I want to stop share, that's the end of that. So the additional things we want to talk about is the value add, the fact that why we plant these gardens for preserving biodiversity. We had, before that garden went in 2019, I spent a lot of time in 2020, I think it was the main year, 2020. There were no birds in that area. There were no butterflies. We only had the non-native honeybee and the very overabundant, I would say, exceeding its historical numbers, bumblebee called Bombus impatiens. And the first year of flowering, that garden had over 300% increase in just bumblebees alone. We had monarch butterflies and other butterflies, birds eating the seeds. I mean, the change in biodiversity was beyond noticeable. It was just incredible. Additionally, just Saturday, when we were out there working again, and Leslie, you were with us. Were you there when the hummingbird buzzed me? It came right by my face. I mean, it was like no feeders, just natural bird food, right, from the flowers. So that's the end of that. I guess I'll ask Joan and Leslie if you have any input on that. You can unmute. Are you trying to unmute? Yeah.
Okay, I thought that was great, a very good presentation. I have nothing particular to add to it, but I appreciate what you did to put that together.
Yeah, but it obviously needs to, the follow-up, that was just the beginning, and it takes longer than I thought to pull it together.
Yeah.
But it showed it, I think it showed how we started out at the beginning.
Oh, shit.
Leslie, are you trying to say anything? I know you're doing it from your phone, which is challenging. All right, so
Okay, I'm here now. I couldn't find the mute button.
okay, why don't you just keep it on for now, everyone, all right?
All right.
Except for me. I just need to find out where it is. I'm sorry, I had a, oh, there it is in the upper corner. Now I find it. Yeah. So going to go on to the next step will be to finish that up with just adding some of the pictures since then. And would that be all right with both of you? Does that sound
Yeah.
like a good task to finish it up? You've seen some of those
Looking
pictures.
forward to it. How can I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
How are you going to present it at the garden tour?
Oh, this isn't for the garden tour.
Oh, okay.
This is trying to create a history of the
Pollinator.
given the recent concerns that have been raised about us not taking care of it and it being a complete failure, and that it should be removed from the library grounds.
Right. Okay, got it.
So I thought we should document exactly what it was like before and all of the volunteer hours. I think there's just a real big disconnect between the value of ecological gardening and what it looks like different. Like, we were not trying to use native plants in a formal garden setting. You can do that, right? You can have a garden that looks more formal, but it doesn't, if you want to have all of the ecological gardening benefit that we're trying to educate people about, it's a different look, it's a different type of garden, and we've certainly been educating people. We've had we had a garden tour in 2022, and it was like 98 degrees. It was crazy hot, and we still had over 20 people show up, I believe. Last year we had 2 separate garden tours. One of them had 75 people. Another one had over 20. Pouring rain on the day with 20, and it was after another garden tour earlier. So just on those garden tours alone, plus the Girl Scouts, I wanted to highlight the Girl Scouts who have come, collected seeds. Well, first they did a winter sow, then they came, first they came and just had a talk at the garden. Then they decided they wanted to follow up. They put in a garden at Finn's school. Then they collected seeds for winter sow. They helped package seeds for winter sow. They participated in sowing the seeds for winter sow. I mean, that's real community outreach because
It
of
sure
the
is.
availability of that garden. And to say there's been no education and it's been a failure, it just, you know, it's a little bit hard to fathom.
Right.
So I think, and it's not for lack of trying on educating. We've had presentations by Dr. Giguere since that garden came in, where he talks about the ecological reasoning for how we choose the plants. And maybe you can always do more, but I've been providing once a month a garden club at the library since last September, and people have come and gotten a lot out of it. One of the goals was hopefully to get people who attend to want to become volunteers to help weed and manage the garden, but that was not the only goal of the course. Educating people about ecological gardening. We also had a seed cleaning workshop. We had a very popular winter sow. We had 15 to 20 people there on numerous nights. Some of them we did have one night we didn't do during graduation. I didn't do my normal outreach and we didn't have anyone show up. That was once, but I believe that's not uncommon for events. It was uncommon for us. I was very disappointed, but normally we had 8 to 14, 15 people attend. So we talked about invasives. We talked about choosing the plants, the decline of species. Birds are declining at a rate of 30% in the last 50 years. That's not sustainable. And that's common backyard birds. Gardens like this help prevent that. So anyhow, I'm hoping to make the presentation a little tighter, and also to learn how to use Zoom better. So I'm going to go to the next agenda item, which is planning the June 23rd garden tour. And the title is Celebrating Collaboration, Native Biodiversity Through Pollination. There's been a flyer we created, and there's also was a nice story written up on my Southborough. And this, as you know, is being promoted regionally. So unfortunately, and we went through this last year for all our garden tours, so we said this year would be rain or shine. Saturday night, I looked at the weather. It said 50% chance of rain on Saturday. And I said, oh, I'm going to have to watch that. I got up on Sunday morning and it said next Sunday it was 50% chance of rain. Now it's down to 30%. So it's rain or shine. What the rain will do is if there's a heavy, the rain could be later in the day, but it will mean we will have less display material out to get wet, because we have these easels that we can put, you've seen them at the other garden tours. So we will
Right.
have an appropriate number for the number of canopies we have. So we'll need to get there, 10:30, 10 o'clock to start setting up. We'll be doing stuff on Saturday as well. We'll have more, because we're doing both gardens, we'll be having continuous weeding days at both the Beals Preserve and at the library to finish up. well, they're never done. So that's my saying. It's called gardening, not garden done. So it's always a process, right?
Yeah,
So we will be continuing. There's some planting that needs to happen, signage, plant stake signs, a lot to get done in the next few days, countdown. But I'm confident that we will have a good,
good turnout.
well,
Yeah.
also, you know, the my concern is to get it prepared enough, and it will be prepared just wonderfully. But these are not unkept or unmanaged gardens. There's just always work to be done, and we have volunteers that are always working there, and working and learning. So I'll move on to the next agenda. This was just going to be a short meeting. We wanted to go over the library garden, and also the next agenda item is prep for select board meeting on June 18th, tomorrow night. Is Amy in the audience? Melissa, can you promote her?
I see an HC and a Sarah Warden.
I keep saying Amy. I'm sorry.
Sarah.
It's Sarah.
Yep.
Yes. I'm sorry, Sarah. Who's Amy? I don't know why.
She is loading in.
Okay. So these two topics are kind of together. I'm just going to go look on the town website for the select board's agenda. Yeah. Hi, Sarah.
Hi,
Can you forgive me for the Amy?
of course.
Okay, I'm looking at the I'm not finding the select board's agenda. Planning board, rec. Stewardship. Select board, here we go. More details. I'm on agenda, okay. 6:30, they have a license hearing, 7 o'clock, a tree hearing. Then they have an appoint recreation director. Then number D. This is not right. I'm gonna have to have them, they have, after appoint recreation director, they have interview, appoint Sarah Warden to Open Space Preservation Commission. I had recommended, Sarah, that you have, there's 2 terms open. I recommended you take the one to 2028. And then reappointments. Oh, this will be where you come in, Leslie. Fiscal year
Okay.
25, committee reappointments and or reorganization. Stewardship Committee, Open Space Preservation Commission. I am the Open Space Preservation Commission representative on the Stewardship Committee. The Open Space Preservation Commission at our last meeting voted that we did not see the value in joining with the Stewardship Committee. Our roles are very different. Stewardship Committee is solely for Breakneck Hill land management, and we don't have the time to devote to taking care of the land there with all of our other duties that we're engaged in. And I'm going to, I was told we would have 10 minutes for a presentation to briefly update the select board on 4 issues, and that is, I had a phone call with Andrew Dennington, asked to speak with me, so we had a nice conversation where he gave me 4 key points for us to be able to address. Let me just see if I can find those. You would think I could find it easily, but I can't, so. Sorry to be silent while I'm looking.
That's okay. I'm looking at their agenda too.
So, boy, I can't find the 4. Oh, it's in an email, so I'll find that. I sent an email to Kathy Cook, the select board chair.
I have some notes, Freddie. I could tell you these 4 items from my notes.
Okay, great.
Okay, so the first thing was to review what we work on currently.
Yeah. So let me say what that is. We obviously have our native pollinator, native plant initiative, where this is education, and we are working with Professor Jagir on what, not just which plants, but how you have to landscape the plants for preserving biodiversity, which is critical for open space preservation. And that's one of the issues we have to explain a little bit. How does that relate to our charge? But that is overall land management, but not one property, except for we oversee the gardens that we have collaborated with the installment of. That's at the library, the Beals Preserve. They're demo gardens where people can learn and see plants they wouldn't normally see. They also serve as a resource of collecting seeds to get more of these plants out into the landscape overall. And so besides that, a lot of what we do is more review and comment on projects and plans to, like, and if there's an open space project, like we're trying to make something happen with the Johnson land, but all of those take an awful lot of time reviewing site plans and subdivision plans. In subdivision plans, it's actual looking at parcels or portions of the property to be set aside as open space to ensure they meet our requirements. Site plan, it's looking at, and all of the other ones, it's looking at landscape plans to ensure that the native plants as required in our bylaws, and then when not required, we make recommendations that the planning board recommends them. Although I believe the planning board has determined that based on their zoning code that native plants are required. They're not really optional. But that's not our choice where they decide that, but where it's written in the code that it absolutely is required. That is one area. And then the other areas we recommend that they be used if it's not as clear cut. So those are some of the things we're working on, but then there's the master plan that gave us other areas to work on, and I'll print out the list. Leslie, you had it at our last meeting, and there's a few ones that we're actually working on, which are we were identified as taking responsibility for invasive species management townwide, for dealing with coming up with a land protection strategy, which we're hoping to have a presentation from Sudbury Valley trustees on a new tool they have for us, and that will happen in the fall. In August, on the invasives, we're going to be having that presentation with the
Spotted lanternfly.
on spotted lanternfly, thank you, from the Massachusetts Department of Agriculture Resources. And I've been working with them, communicating since it was first found here, ground zero I went to, which was pretty shocking. And right now they're in a different phase. They're in a nymph phase, and come August, it will start to be time when people start seeing them more and we can come up with strategies of how to manage them. And then, or not, what the best techniques are. And it's not likely that they will stay in one isolated area. So we need to become very proficient in how to manage effectively without just wiping out all the other insects without actually having any impact on the spotted lanternfly. What they said to me on the spotted lanternfly and also on the emerald ash borer is another big issue. I'm hoping to have a workshop set up from a tree specialist. If we had a way that worked using chemical spraying, they wouldn't have traveled here from the Midwest or from Pennsylvania, you know, so there's nothing proven that works as far as spraying goes. And when people start spraying, what they end up doing is just killing all the good beneficial insects as well and not really solving the problem. So that's something we want to get ahead of. So the invasive, I'll put that list together for tomorrow night. What's on the master plan. There's also some things in the open space and rec plan, but I was speaking with Kathy Cook and she goes, well, you know, Freddie, that the master plan doesn't authorize you to work on things. And my response is, of course, we know that. The master plan is goals and projects for us to be working on. Our authorization comes from town meeting. And our authorization is our charge. And our charge is to facilitate the preservation of open space. And the issue is, I think, we're being told we're not staying in our own lane. And I need to describe to the select board why we are fully authorized to do the work we're doing. Their complaints are about us using letterhead to write letters to other boards and commissions. And one of the things is the lack of understanding or knowledge of what open space is, because there are all types of open space. And I'll write this out with the definitions for the meeting tomorrow night, but open space includes many different things. There's requirements for open space in subdivisions. There are requirements for open space to meet requirements for conservation restrictions. There's another whole set of requirements for open space for CPA funding, but there's all types of open space. And one type of open space is green space, which is anything open to the air and sky, which is what we have used for our native plan initiative, because then what happens is anyone's yard or any business's yard or landscape area is actually where it's not developed, where it's not hardscaped or buildings, is open space under the green space definition. We do not have authority to go in and tell people what to do on their yards. That's where we do the education and outreach, because wildlife habitat is one of the key components of why we preserve open space. And if we're losing it, then these studies show, and these are from the UN, it's not just nationally, but it's internationally, regionally, locally, statewide. We're losing biodiversity. The whole ecological framework is collapsing. And the baseline component of it that everything else depends upon is the pollination, the action between the animals, the pollinators, and the plants. And this does not stop at one conserved area. It's landscape wide. So this is a huge movement. It's not just our town or our commission coming up with this. And so that's what we've been working on. And we actually named it as a initiative in 2017. And we've been writing letters and making comments since then. And we've been writing and making comments for over 20 years now. And I had shared with you the letter from town council at the time in 2004, where he told us we had, he didn't tell us, he wrote to the town planner and stated our authority to write comments and participate in the review process of permitting. And I will share that as well, but I'll take a quote from it. The Open Space Commission is empowered by the Southborough Code, Chapter 6, Article 3, is charged to serve as facilitators for protection and preserving open space. The Open Space Preservation Commission is part of the subdivision review process with input as to protecting and preserving open space consistent with the standards of the planning board's rules and regulations. So I'll just stop there for a minute. We're commenting to the planning board consistent with their rules and regulations. The planning board now constantly reaches out to us and requests our input. But even if they didn't, we have the authority to do so, and we have town council from 2004 telling us that so. He goes, I note by way of, going back to his letter, by way of reference to those rules and regulations, section 244-12D refers to the town of Southborough's policy and major objective of the planning board to preserve to the maximum extent feasible the open rural character of the town and its significant natural features, and to minimize removal of healthy trees and stone walls, excessive grading and destruction of natural vegetated features. The provision read in conjunction with the mandate to the Open Space Preservation Commission established in 1986 manifests a fundamental concern that open space be maximized in subdivisions in the good administrative direction of the planning board. And we believe that this is not much difference for site plan review. We're following the policy of the planning board, the zoning code, as well as the town has a open space policy. I'll be sharing that. I think I sent it out to you. I just recently came across it. I read it at the CPA meeting, but I'll email you that. It's a policy that's been on the books, voted by town meeting, and town meeting is who authorized and gave us our authority to be a commission. I did speak with a gentleman at one of the departments at the Inspector General's office on this question, and I will bring that up as well. He said, if the select board doesn't want us working on certain things, they need to go back to town meeting and change our charge. Because right now our charge is very broad and we're within our authority to utilize it to the full breadth of what it says, the preservation of open space. And I believe we have never stepped out of our lane, and I guess that's what the big discussion tomorrow night's going to be about. Leslie or Joan, do you have any questions on that?
Well, I'd like a hard copy of that letter. You said you were going to email it? Or
Yeah, I have to, I only have a,
or
I
can I
think I
get
sent you it, but you maybe couldn't read it. I only had a picture of it, so I will try to get the original and get it scanned.
Mhm.
But I'm going to have to do that for the select board anyhow. So as soon as I get it, I had sent you a picture. I guess it didn't open up maybe.
Okay. So we'll try again. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have to work on it.
Okay.
I don't have the hard copy. Somebody else had it in
And
the
it's
files.
not on the town website, right?
No, it's not.
Okay.
It's from 2004.
Oh, I see. Got it.
Okay. I would appreciate seeing that as well.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I thought I'd already sent it, or I think I did and you couldn't.
You
leave it
did, but I
open.
think it was I couldn't open it. I wasn't authorized to open it somehow. Maybe
Yeah,
it's because it's from 2004. I don't know.
I have no idea why not. But I know,
Okay.
Sarah, I'll send you a copy as well. Okay. Anything else on that? Okay.
No.
Joan, the
Yeah.
next item.
Let me just go back. The stewardship merger with OSPC, I think you went over that and,
Oh, actually, I was starting to go over that.
yeah.
We voted at our last meeting that we didn't see any value. The stewards at their most recent meeting, they also said there was no value. There would be no benefit to them. It would not help out at all. I believe they also said if somebody wanted to know, if you want to help someone out, why don't you ask what they need? I think that was the point that was made. And not just come up with this. So there was no rhyme or reason as far as I could see. It was also mentioned they were very mad that we had written a letter for preserving open space for the land at 120 Turnpike Road for the 40B there, where we objected to the 4-story apartment building going on land that was to come to the town for open space, directly abutting the premier open space property of the town at Breakneck Hill conservation land that would have great negative impact to wildlife habitat and other values of the property, including people's sense of nature and calm when they're walking the trails there, to be in nature. Instead, they would be looking at a parking lot and a large apartment building and straight through to Route 9. So,
Right, not to mention the changes in wildlife that would happen. You'd get more kind of pesky wildlife like raccoons and skunks, as opposed to, what we have now. It's deer, rabbit,
yeah, and
coyote, birds.
yeah. We put all of that in our letter, which was, and from what I understand now, they're moving forward on the compromise, which is the building's not on the open space, and it's still moving forward. So I don't understand what the big, we made a comment, and we weren't the only ones, and the other committees, the stewardship, and also once the abutters became aware of it, because no one notified them, and there was some comments that, getting people to attend the meetings was inappropriate. We mentioned it, the stewardship committee, to some people who then became more engaged. I will note that we kept hearing there were no abutters, and I kept since last August saying the whole town is an abutter. And yet when the select board, when you have a hearing, there's a green card that goes out to notify all the abutters. The select board received the green card notifying the citizens of Southborough who are the abutters. That's who it was made out to in their care, 17 Common Street. I think it was 17. Anyhow, to the townhouse. They signed for it, or their representative. The citizens of Southborough were notified of this public hearing, and yet the select board did nothing to notify the citizens of Southborough. And yet they're annoyed that some people on the Open Space Commission or the Stewardship Committee told people there was going to be a hearing, and maybe if they cared, they should attend. I mean, that was hard to hear. That we're getting in trouble for doing what is only the right thing to do when you're preserving open space, to let people know this is ongoing. Although we didn't, and I'll say I didn't participate in getting many of the people who showed up. I notified some of the abutters that they might want to attend the hearing, and if they took it from there, that's, not rabble rousing. So anyhow, that seemed to be, although there's some backtracking on that seemed to be why they wanted to combine the open space and the stewardship committee, because they were mad that we wrote those letters, and or the decision to do so was made or mentioned right after they mentioned they were mad about us writing those letters, that we had no authority to do so. So. Is there,
Uh-huh. That's why they say, we've stepped out of our bounds, right?
it's one of the, no, that it started with writing letters about landscaping. That started last August. We've been called out numerous times during, well, certainly when Joan was being appointed. And I'll say, one of the other things is we don't have enough members. And I'll say that what happened at Joan's appointment, I had two other people, one ready to fill out her form and another person seriously considering asking to become a member. And both of them chose not to after what happened at Joan's appointment, which instead of being an interview of a new first-time volunteer asking to join a commission, turned into an attack on the Open Space Preservation Commission, to the point where I interrupted Mr. Hamilton and said, point of order, because in my opinion, attacking the Open Space Preservation Commission was not on the agenda. Although it was allowed, my point was not heard. I was said, the chair, Andrew Dennington, said he knew what I was going with it and that he was going to allow the conversation to continue. Although at that time, Mr. Hamilton said, well, he'd get to it later. I believe he's brought it up twice under chair report. Never once has this commission, and I've asked to have a, time, bring us, put us on the agenda so we can have a conversation. Never once have we been on the agenda until now, when it's, if they don't appoint a member, then we don't have a quorum. So they have effectively, there's like a guillotine to our neck, and we've effectively been decommissioned by not having a quorum. So we'll see what happens tomorrow night. If in my mind, that's
So-
not when you have a conversation with a commission, when you're being telling them that either they do what the commission says, what the select board says, or you don't get reappointed, is the message that came across. And that's not our government. I will say that. And also I'll get the quote and I'll send it out. There's a quote in the, let me see, in the municipal selectmen's handbook. Let me just try to find it. The Mass Municipal Association Select Board Handbook. Once appointed, town boards and commissions must be free to act on their own without interference. Quotation marks. I just was sent that today. I will look it up and send it out to you. But the theory that once you're appointed, that you somehow have to do what the selectmen say and can't disagree with their opinion. And that's one of the other things I'd like your permission to show tomorrow. Over the years, the Open Space Preservation Commission has disagreed with our select board. Sometimes quite I'm trying to find the correct word. Big disagreement. Never once were we told we wouldn't be reappointed because we disagreed. Never once were we threatened with not having a commission after they refused to appoint people because of it, which isn't exactly what they said, but it's certainly how it was interpreted by many who were at the select board's meeting or watched it later. So I'd like to show one of the biggest disagreements we had before either of you were on the commission, was over the disposition of the golf course. And the selectmen wanted a public safety building and all of the land to be used for future development needs of the town. The Open Space Commission thought we should have a public safety building with the rest of the land reserved to stay a golf course and to be permanently protected with a conservation restriction and become open space if for some reason the golf course was non-sustainable, but that it would be open space and not developed. We worked hard. It got there was a citizens group that formed, Save Our Heritage. They put on a citizens petition to save the whole property, no public safety. So we went to town meeting, and this was after, as the Open Space Commission chair, there were many public disagreements with the chair of the Board of Selectmen over our view that it should be public safety and golf course versus just the golf course. I mean, just the public safety. Went to town meeting, there was only two options. Public safety building and develop the rest, or save it all from the citizens petition. The Open Space Commission had worked hard and came up with a compromise amendment, which was to have the public safety building with the rest preserved as open space, with the golf course allowed to be there while it was viable. Because at the time they were saying, oh, golf course wasn't going to make any money, it would go out of business. I think we can see now that that was not true. Anyhow, what happened was we had an amendment, we had some help, someone who had agreed with the select board for many months, but was willing to talk at the time, used to talk with the Open Space Commission, and then came around to agreeing with us and helped facilitate making sure we had a legally defensible amendment. We had our amendment. I don't know if you know how town meeting goes, but when you put a warrant on the floor, an article, you can make an amendment, but I believe there's only like 2 amendments that can be made. So if other people get up and make amendments before you're seen at the mic, yours doesn't get heard. Also, the meeting has to vote to approve the amendment. It's not a sure thing at all that it will even get voted on when you have an amendment. But we walked into that town meeting and I wasn't even have my coat off when the select board invited me into their meeting to ask if the Open Space Preservation Commission would support it if they, instead of making us make an amendment, if they actually took our amendment and put it on the floor, because they had took one look at the hall and known that they were not going to get their public safety building. And I could take one look at the hall and know, because you need a 2/3 vote. They were not having 2/3. I took one look at the hall and could say there wasn't a 2/3 vote to protect the land. So obviously our amendment was the right way to go. So it was within the half hour, 10 minutes before town meeting opened, they had our amendment as the warrant article they were putting on the town meeting floor, which they did, which after that town meeting, I had handshakes, actually it was hugs, from chairman of the Board of Selectmen who had fought with me passionately for his case over the past year. Never once suggesting that the commission should be disbanded or was wrong for disagreeing with them, even though it was quite a heated disagreement many times. Heated is the right word. So I just want to say that we have disagreed with the selectmen to the great benefit of the town.
Right.
Significant benefit to the town. And that's just one of the biggest examples, not the only one.
Yeah, and a lot of work that went behind it, not just the result, but the time and the energy and the knowledge it took to put it together.
Right. And we did, there were numerous meetings, believe me. And a lot of work to come up with a warrant article, because it's not just you can't just have a warrant article. We are talking about buying land. It had to have the right components in it legally to make it, something that the Attorney General wouldn't, dismiss, say, oh, this doesn't meet the criteria. So, I mean, that alone, so I'm going to highlight that at the discussion. Unless you object.
No, I don't object.
Joan?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Mhm.
What were the next two items?
One was about the missing minutes.
Yeah,
Let me just go back to my notes. So I
No.
think we've talked about the four things.
so the missing minutes, we're working on it. There's no excuse. It happened.
Mhm.
I will say, I think the person who was calling it out has there's an expression, but you shouldn't point fingers
Oh,
when you, as chair of a different board, you actually got called out by the Attorney General.
Hmm.
And for not just not being able to get to them, which are, we have reasons. I don't think the reasons are really relevant, but we had some of the minutes we thought were being passed in, they weren't. The documents is the big deal, mostly what we have now. So that is a big project. I've started out working on printing out all of the minutes that have documents we have to supply to see what documents we actually reviewed. Most of them, we didn't even have documents. I reviewed it. A lot of this has been with two new members teaching, and I've been explaining things. I don't know. We'll have to go through the minutes to see how many documents we need to supply. Certainly the Chestnut Hill Farm Plan, certainly the site plan for the 40B. There's been a few others maybe, but I've provided you with some information on Chapter 61, the site plan for the Chapter 61 land we have to, so we'll put those in with the minutes. It's a big project though, but we will get it done. The issue is though, we don't have staff, and it was never, ever indicated that we did it on purpose to hide information. So, I just think, not that it's okay, and as chair, I bear responsibility, but we're working to fix it. And if we get certainly if we had the members who had stepped up last August, had followed through with, filling out their volunteer forms, and we had a full commission, we wouldn't be as far behind. And I will not take responsibility that they didn't sign up. That is squarely on the Board of Selectmen for allowing what happened during Joan's appointment to occur. And I know for a fact she's not, that other people in town have felt that way as well. People who, well, I'll state it. I was at a meeting where someone came up to me. I didn't know this woman. And she said, I'm interested in joining the Open Space Commission, but I'm afraid of the selectmen, something to that effect, of how I'll be treated or how they, how they go through the appointment process. Something wrong in that sort of atmosphere that's been created where citizens are afraid to volunteer. So I'll leave that there. I'm not going to say that tomorrow night, but I'm saying it here. I hope you both get, so the other, sorry, are we done with those 4 items?
yes.
So that's what we have to present briefly tomorrow in a very respectful, pleasant way. The next agenda item is to introduce Sarah, not Amy. Sarah, can you unmute?
I'm unmuted.
Okay. Do you want to, so Leslie and Joan, this is Sarah. I'm sorry none of us have our videos on.
I can start. I
Okay,
can show my video if that's
Oh,
better,
thank you,
because it's more
Sarah.
personable. I have my dog on my lap, so if he barks, that's what it is. But I'm Sarah, and I live in Southborough the past 20 years, and I have always, since I was a child, cared about open space. I started an environmental group in high school when it was rare, and it was in early 90s. So I've always cared a lot about it. And I'm a quiet listener of a lot of town meetings and wanted to volunteer for a long time. So I think after talking to Freddie at the planning board meeting, at the mapping session, I realized the importance of it. So I put in the information to apply.
And I'm
Well,
glad you did.
welcome.
Great.
So fingers crossed for tomorrow night. I don't know that there's anything we can do to,
Well, how can they not appoint her? I'm not sure how they can,
it's within their authority to appoint anyone. They held many appointees at their last meeting. 3 members of the Community Preservation Committee, all of whom were voted by their representing other committees and boards, all of whom were voted by their representative boards and commissions to sit on the CPC. They held those.
Mhm.
A while ago, there was somebody who was voted by their respective board, Shopsy, who they chose not to appoint. There's debate whether that was legal, but that's another question. So that's CPA. They held Shopsy because they might be, I don't know why, they might be combining it with another committee, but until that other commission's combined, you would think you would want the standing committee to be there, but that's a committee, not a commission. So I'll tell you the difference. I don't know if that's I'm not sure if the Shopsy, and it must be a standing committee that was, charged by town meeting, where to get rid of it, you can do 2 things. You just don't appoint them, which is the backdoor way of doing it, or you go to town meeting and you change the charge. That's the same thing with the Open Space Commission. We were authorized by town meeting. So if you want to get rid of us, the select board can just not appoint a quorum and then get rid of us that way, or they can go to town meeting and change our charge or decommission it. Stewardship Committee is a little bit off because it's an ad hoc committee. It should be a different type of ad hoc. Means usually it's a temporary, you have a job to do, and when it's done, you're over. The Stewardship Committee has been in effect without any complaints against us for 20 years that I know. Well, there's disagreements, but 20 years we've been managing the Breakneck Hill Conservation Land and took it from a invasive species nightmare, declared the worst Oriental bittersweet infestation in Metro West by someone who worked at the Executive Office of Environmental Affairs in the governor's office, to being a hotspot of biodiversity. And they've worked very hard. I've been on the committee, so I can say we, but and we just this year had noticed that we had breeding bobolinks, that we've been working very hard to get this type of grassland bird. One of the reasons we were against the 40B right next to it, but we also have rare species of bumblebees and butterflies and are involved as a research site for Dr. Robert G. Geer. So that probably should be a standing committee, but you make the move to change it, not the move to not appoint any of the members, which is what was done. But there's been a lot of public outrage over what happened at the select board's meeting. And since then I've heard, they weren't talking about not appointing people. They just wanted to have these committees come in and talk to us. And I'm just saying, there was a lot of time between last July 1st, when the committee started, before not appointing people and saying you need to come in. It certainly looked like a quid pro quo, the way the conversation went. And I'm just glad I wasn't up for reappointment on this Open Space Commission. So to answer your question, how can they do it? They just don't appoint you. They have that authority. I assume they're going to appoint you because there was a lot of public upset over that meeting. I think citizens were outraged from what I heard. But I don't know what else to say.
Where are we meeting tomorrow? At the Public Safety Building?
No, at the townhouse,
Oh, the townhouse upstairs?
upstairs, in the hearing room, we're meeting ahead of time.
Okay,
In the hallway, we have it just to go over any last minute things.
okay. And what time is that? 6?
If somebody, I've got so much on my plate, if someone can just look at the agenda, it's posted.
Okay, I do have the agenda here. Oh, the agenda for it said we were listed, there was a bunch of bullet items under 7 o'clock. So that's when the actual appointment is going to start. But when our group gets together just before we go in, do you want to meet at 6:30?
Okay, there's an agenda. Let me find it. So all these commissions have posted agendas because they're all meeting to go to the select board, right? So we have the Community Preservation Committee. It's going to be a crowded hallway. The Planning Board's meeting, the Rec Commission's meeting, Shopsy's meeting, Stewardship Committee, Open Space. We're meeting at 7 p.m. It's on the town's website. That's where you can always find the agendas when they're posted.
Yeah, are you, I'm looking at the agenda for the select board for tomorrow
But-
night.
Hello, we're looking at the Open Space Preservation Commission's agenda. So go back out of the select board's agenda.
Okay,
That's their agenda. We have our own agenda.
okay, select board.
So I posted this, or I wrote this before I knew Sarah was able to come today. So we will be introducing her in person.
Okay,
And I will have some minutes to have done before we go in front of them. There will be a few we can do. Okay,
okay,
so we meet in the hallway. And we have and then once it's time for us, we can go into the select board's meeting. See that on the agenda?
I see 7 p.m. on the second floor hallway.
You see the agenda items?
I see the agenda items, yes.
Okay. So that is our agenda. Then when we go into the select board's meeting, we're on their, we're meeting with them. But we have our own agenda ahead of time, okay?
Okay, I just want to know so that I'm on time. So I'll plan to be there at 7 p.m.
Correct. And although
Okay.
we're on their agenda for 7:30, if you saw some of the previous agenda items,
Mhm.
hearings
it
can
may
run
or may not
longer.
right away, yeah.
So, Sarah, are you going to be able to make it tomorrow?
Yes, I'm gonna go for when it starts and then I can hop out for 7.
Oh, for the select board's hearings?
The tree hearings I was gonna listen, I wanted to listen if that's okay. If not, I can just hop.
No,
I
that's
can-
fine. And
Okay,
you're not a member of the commission, so you don't even have to attend our meeting,
okay.
We'd like to have you there, but if you're interested in the tree hearings. Joan, well, that's not an open space commission issue. I'll talk to you about it later, about trees. All right, was there another item on the agenda for today? I've got tomorrow's agenda up. Is anyone's,
Ready to adjourn the meeting? Should I make a motion?
yep,
I'll make a motion to adjourn the Open Space Preservation Committee meeting
commission.
this afternoon.
I second it.
Okay. I'm going to do a roll call. because we're on Zoom.
Okay,
Joan Levinson,
Yes, here.
well, you're, sorry. The motion is to adjourn the Open Space Preservation Commission meeting. And Joan Levinson,
Okay,
yes.
I,
Leslie Nadit,
aye.
and Freddie Gillespie, aye. Adjourned at 3:32. Thank you for coming. We'll see you all tomorrow.
Yep,
I'll
see
get
you
those
tomorrow.
documents to you, okay?
Thank you.
Bye.
okay, thank you.